Morning, everyone. Just waiting for a few more of us to join and then we'll kick off. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. You may have some questions that come up, which is absolutely fine. But if you could try and use the Q&A function rather than the chat, that'd be great so we can keep an eye on it all. And then I'm going to hand over to Jess to start us off. Thanks, Jess.
Hi, thank you for joining the AEO Marketeer of Tomorrow webinar. I'm Jessica Ansell, Marketing Director at Informa Markets, and I'm joined today by a panel of marketing experts. I will let them go around and introduce themselves. So, Kate, let's start with you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kate Disley, and I am CEO and founder of Tembo. I've been an event marketer for over 20 years now, and I run my business helps matchmake event marketers with event organisers, and also we have our own in-house event marketing agency.
Thank you. And Emma?
Hi everyone, I am Emma. I am a senior commercial marketing manager and now head of special projects at Clarion events. I work in the technology portfolio and my role's focused towards the commercial side, so working with the sales team to get sponsors on board for our events and various new products that we've added in the last year.
Great. And Rob?
Hi Jess, thanks. I'm Rob Nathan. I'm the Group Marketing Director at Media 10 and been here now. This is my 14th year here. And I'm also a director of Caboodle AI, which is a content curation platform, which I'm sure we'll talk about that type of things later. And I've been in event marketing also. I think I'm surpassing Kate, so I'm sort of coming up for sort of 25 years. So maybe I'll get a badge for that.
Fab. So Marketeer of Tomorrow, where do we start? I think it's in a year of great change. I think we'll all agree there's been really big shifts, and I think there's been tremendous shift in the role of marketing and the marketing output and the team, and I think especially around the skills that we as marketers have had to adapt to and develop. So we're all used to working in businesses that change, but I guess what's been the biggest shift that you've all seen? So Rob, let's start with you. I know that Media 10 have been really adapting the marketing team, the function and the ownership. So it'd be great to hear about that.
Yeah, so obviously the last year has not been what anyone would have expected. And so we have had to adapt. And I think what that has meant for the marketeer of today and for tomorrow is that they can no longer be seen as what I would call paint by numbers marketeers, where you had an event at a certain day or 2 events a year or a portfolio of events, and you worked on your plan and everything was just the way it was the year before. You would look for that marginal increase. Everything got blown out of the water over the last year. And I think that we started off by thinking, okay, this is going to be over in a few months, so we'll shift some dates. And then there was a lot of time taking up with date shifting. This is going to be 3 months and then we'll be back. And it wasn't the case. And so we adapted quite early. And what the marketeer had to do, and what they still do now, is to change their function. And for me, I see that the marketeer is now just not just a marketing manager or an exec. They're a brand. That, they need to look at their brand, and they need to look at ways that they monetize that. And if that's through data or that's through digital products, and I'm not talking about just saying, like, we're going to run a live version of our event for 2 days. We didn't go down that route. What we did was segment what we had in the business and thought, okay, if it's B2B or B2C, how can we make our audience, how can we change the way that we're marketing our events for good? And we've had some amazing successes over the last year. And now we have marketing teams that are more integrated with the sales function. So probably more, like what Emma said, commercial, that commercial function. But it was And what I suppose the overriding thing is, and I'm sure I'll let the others speak, is that never going back to that old way of thinking. Is that people now have to adapt forever. Marketeers have to adapt forever. And I firmly believe that the thought leadership should come from everyone, but shouldn't just be confined to event directors or to COOs or CEOs, that the marketing team can say, right, we're thought leaders now in this business. And these are the ideas that we can bring to the table. And these can be commercialized. And every event is different. And sadly, we've lost a lot of people in the industry because of efficiencies, because of redundancies. But I'd say that the ones that are retained are the ones that are go-getting, and the ones that have said, no, I'm not just going to sit on my hands and wait for events to come back, because we can't do that. Because that might be, and it's turned out to be 18 months between events. You can't just sit there and say, okay, but I'm keeping my audience engaged. I'm sending out an odd bit of content. No, it's got to be, how can I segment my business? How can we drive it via, the multitude of platforms that are out there to drive businesses forward? And that's what the marketing function is doing. And that's why the marketeer of tomorrow should be thinking, I'm not just this, like I said, paint by numbers marketing person anymore. Is that it's opened the doors for those thought leaders, those marketers who want to improve their businesses. And that, in a nutshell, without getting into specifics, is what we've been doing.
Thanks, Rob. And Emma, obviously your role is, as Rob mentioned, is very commercially focused. So, working very closely with the sales function and responsible for delivering, commercial revenue. So, in this role, what are the skills that you've really had to hone and really develop, and thinking about, what are critical, what skills are critical for the marketer, in your role?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Rob was saying about adaptability is huge. We really just need to move with the times as they come and look at what other industries are doing. And I think that's the point I'm just going to make over and over today, is look at what other industries are doing, and let's not just look at each other. I know, we all look at Informa from Clarion perspective and Media 10, but we've started looking at like retailers. How are they creating content online, or even in shops? We've looked at airports. How do they guide people in a direction? How do people interact with all these different things? And that's one side to it. So just looking out onto other industries, how can we learn from them? Just being curious. I think those are key skills. The other side of it, and my role, I think I've been very fortunate with having this role, is being close to the market and the sales side of it. And I know Simon Foster did a talk recently with Simon Parker about why marketers don't always end up in more senior positions. And I think it's important that as marketers, we realize that is a gap, and we do need to be close to the commercial side and see what our markets need, what our data is telling us is the right angle to go towards. And I think for me, that's been a really key part. It's just understanding the brand as a whole. I'm not just thinking this is the event that I turn up to, not just looking at registration numbers or revenue figures. It is leaning into that brand side, exactly like Rob said. And I know in other companies you have event directors. We don't have that in our division necessarily, but marketers shifting towards that angle as well.
Thank you. And Kate, thinking about Tembo, and I guess the big question for you is, what changes are you seeing from the organisers on the briefs, and on the the qualities that they are now requiring for you to fill those roles, and what additional training and developments have you put in place with your team to ensure that the marketers you have can fulfil those roles and the new requirements?
Sure. So it's been a game of two halves, really. So we've had initially it's been about learning all of the platforms, the potential platforms, and then there's another gazillion that have come out in the meantime as well. So one thing I would say is it's don't put too much time into understanding all the platforms that are out there. There's too many of them, and they're changing every day. So we did spend some time doing that, but actually kind of moved more towards, okay, let's focus on the event and what each event requires in terms, you know, is this a networking event? Is it about the content? What's right for the event? So there's a little bit of, I think a lot of organisers were coming to us saying that they'd like some project managers. So that project management bit, it's the knowing and the understanding and having a safe pair of hands, somebody that knows what they're doing, because at the beginning, hardly any of us were doing online events, and hopefully we will all be doing a lot more of them, because they definitely have a place in our future going forward for all our businesses. So there weren't really any experts out there, so we're all learning as quickly as possible. Now, I think going forward, a lot of people are saying to us, you know, about hybrid, how do we do hybrid? Again, nobody's really done this, so we're all learning together, and it's all trying to work out what's best for our own events. And there's not a one size fits all approach. It's all different. B2B is going to be different to B2C. And then there's size of events, there's your community. But I'd say all in all, what people are looking for now is our marketers that are able to think about communities, the buzzword at the moment, build those communities, can create a content plan, preferably monetize that, and have, you know, there's commerciality around that they understand that these things are here to make money. That's for the longevity of the business. So anybody that has those kind of qualities, that's what people are looking for at the moment, as well as understanding that with the virtual events, you know, there's a certain pace that needs to be hit. It's a lot more, it's a quicker, more intense hit. It's all digital. So having your PPC and social skills is really, really important. I mean, social media has been growing in importance for however long, and will only continue to grow in importance. So understanding all the new channels that are coming up. So again, we're getting requests about TikTok, you know, who knows how to use it? You know, we have an audience there. We need to know how to get in there and communicate with them. I've had people ask me about Clubhouse. This is a new opportunity. How do we maximize that opportunity? So it's about having your finger on the pulse at the moment and getting in front of everything. And kind of to echo exactly what Rob and Emma have said, we're all learning together. And so this is a great opportunity for marketers to put themselves forward. So I've spoken to kind of event organisers over the last year, and you know, they've been in flux and they've not known what to do, and that's not disparaging at all. It's unprecedented. How would we know what to do? Why should we have had a plan? So now you have the opportunity to put your ideas forward and work with your senior management team to find the solutions, and this is your time to shine, essentially.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And you mentioned the hybrid word, which kind of brings me on to my next point. You know, what are the challenges marketers are going to face with, you know, with hybrid going forward? And one of the questions we received was around kind of tips on simultaneously marketing hybrid event and virtual event. And I'm just going to kind of add to that you've got your hybrid, you've got your virtual, you know, we're also in the process of transitioning all of our events to 365 brands. So we're trying to also communicate to our audiences at multiple touch points, you know, and then Emma, obviously your role is the growth in digital. There is a growth in the sponsorship side of it. There is a massive growth in the deliverables. So another touch point again. So, you know, how can we ensure that we're not inundating our audience, and actually we're not, you know, sort of detriment of our brands, and we're able to kind of nurture our data more and grow them. So Emma, let me start with you with this one, and then we can Kate.
So I mean, it's a daily conversation. We have marketing check-ins every morning where we talk about the data and making sure we're not overwhelming it. But as part of our plan for the whole year, we've made sure that we're targeting our comms to those who it's most relevant for. We've gone down the persona route at looking at who uses which channel most, or what they find most useful, and then sponsoring it alongside dependent on the personas. So from a sales side, we're not selling clients anything that isn't going to get them rewards. I mean, it's very simple. We're just going to give them what works for the people they're trying to target. In terms of marketing it, we're doing a lot of, like Rob said, year-round campaigns. We're not just doing the typical event cycle. We're moving out of those peak busy times and peak down times. As a marketer, sometimes we have off months where we're a bit quieter, and that's gone now. We're just busy all the time, and it's actually really exciting to shift from one thing to the next. What Kate said about project management is so key. I mean, my job title's changed to have projects in the name itself, just because that's become so key. But yeah, we're looking at the content calendar as a whole year. We're talking about how they can build, our sponsors can build a package to not only do the event, but how they can support it with the other activities. And that is by default, it's not an add-on. It is, we expect you as event marketers within brands to book all of these things together. And likewise, we expect our attendees to start to engage with us all year round. And I know that's something we've all tried to do in the past, but we've had a lot of time this year to really make it work and to make it a more natural progression. Something we have found though is that the same people who come to our live events aren't necessarily the same people who use our digital products, and that could be a geographical difference, or just how busy people are, where they are, who they are. Some people may not be interested in coming to the event, so we also have that route. We're just getting really close to the data, obviously, to find out who's interested in what and directing them to more of the same.
Thanks. And I think that's really, that's a really exciting point, that we now have two communities, you know, in person and online, and exciting to know, what we do with them. And Rob, on that point of, how do you not inundate your audience? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's about, choosing the requisite products for that audience, and what the pandemic has brought to the forefront. We would all agree that our events are market leaders as being live events. Why shouldn't we be market leaders, not just in live events? Why shouldn't we be the thought leaders throughout the year? And that's what, Kay and Emma have mentioned, is that the question then is, how do we do that? How do you make sure that your content isn't just there for the sake of it? There has to be a purpose behind it. And I think that what we've learned is, and what the lessons over the last year and for the future are, not everything will work. Not everything is going to be a massive success, but the things that will work, build on them. And this is where the data piece comes in. So, we firmly believe here at Media 10 that we should be 365 with our audience. And it just so happens that one of our products is a live event, but also one of our products is a physical magazine. One of our products is a webinar, is a news channel, et cetera, and it's building on all of those things to make sure. And we end up being data businesses who have a portfolio of products, rather than an event company that dabbles in hybrid events. And I think a lesson also is, don't waste your time on things if you're not going to win. So think of your audience. So if you're a B2C business and you think, are we going to do e-commerce well? Are we going to make a lot of money out of e-commerce? Is it ticking the boxes? Is it good for the exhibitors? Yes. Is it good for our audience? Yes, it's okay. But can you get that stuff on Amazon? Of course you can. And that's what people's habits are. So why would you buy with us the same product you could buy on Amazon? Because people are creatures of habit. So shall we go into that fight? Shall we take on Amazon? No, of course not. But then if you're in a niche market, and what Clarion have done really well is with their baby show portfolio, is that they've thought, actually, we can win this because we've got the routes to market, we've got the products, we've got the deals with the exhibitors, and we can beat Amazon on this. So we can win this fight. Whereas some other shows might say, well, can we go up against DFS? Can we go up against, Furniture Village and try and sell? No. So don't go after those fights. look at what you can win, look at what is going to be beneficial for the business, what's going to be beneficial in terms of commerciality, in terms of content, in terms of engagement. And I think that's where you have to analyze. That's where we become good. That's where the marketing departments are good at. Analyze our data. There's a lot of programs out there to help us to get underneath the skin of what we're doing and invest and build on what works, do more of it. The last year's given us an opportunity to trial things. If they don't work, the beauty with a lot of digital product is that they're relatively inexpensive often to do some testing. Test them, see if it works. Can we build on it? Can we add data pools to that? And ultimately, you then end up with this complete 365 days a year plan where you're not just relying on these peaks and troughs that we've said, that we all have gone on about for years of how do we alleviate that. And that's what, I think that we've learned those lessons is that try things, but don't persist with things if they're not working, and don't just do it. Let's not just be busy fools here. Let's not just do things because it keeps us busy, because I think we've learned those lessons that it costs money just to say, oh yeah, we've done this. We put on a virtual event for the same weekend that the event was meant to do. Did it work? Did it work for the exhibitors? Not really. I think this is the underlying theme in the exhibition industry, is that people say, oh yeah, we did this great virtual event. Did it work? Yeah, it was amazing. You're doing it again? No, we're not doing it again. Well, you're not doing it again because it didn't work. That if it worked, then everyone would be doing it all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't have offshoots of the virtual event. It can't. Like Kate said, there's tons of platforms out there, be it Swapcard or be it Expo platform or whoever. For it doesn't have to be this. Yeah, we've got an event. It's the same as the live event, but it's just online. That's not going to work. People aren't going to sit there in their thousands and watch Zoom calls. But there are applications and there are business solutions that we can take to market all year round that the marketing team are integral to deliver.
Thanks, Rob. And then Kate, obviously, from your team and content, I think, Rob mentioned, content is so key into, how we talk to our audience and engage with them, and thinking about how you help support and develop your team in how to approach content. Like, how do you, the hints and tips with how to approach building a content campaign, especially considering any opportunities for delivering revenue with it. What would you say your kind of key thoughts are on that?
Yes, so I mean, we're quite privileged at Tembo because we've got Claire Tulloch as our content director. So we have somebody who has been working with content for years, knows how to research, knows how to test it, and I think that's key. It's asking your audience what they want. I mean, and that goes the majority of the way. Then, as we know, there's also, we have to lead and be innovative as well. People don't always know what they want until they see it. So if you've got a brilliant idea, like Rob said, digitally, it's so easy to test things and give it a try. So, it is all about just giving it a try and see if it works. But keeping in contact with your audience, it's a two-way street. What do they want to hear about? Where are the gaps in their knowledge? How do they progress in their careers? How do you support them? Is there legislation that they need to understand? Understanding all these things about being close to your market, as we all know, is so important. So I think that's the key to it. And just to kind of echo what Rob was saying, and Emma as well. So like with the audience profiles, we know, I think there was an piece of AEO research years ago that said there's a different personality type that go to exhibitions. So now this gives us an opportunity to talk to the other personality type, and creating personas, as Emma said, is really key. Understanding the data, who likes what, and we can create these little niches of and groups and create our content accordingly to them, and properly profile our audience. And we can have hybrids. Hybrid is a fabulous idea, but it can be costly, and we need to make sure that, and maybe this is for the platforms, need to now kind of come up with a solution that supports that more cost effectively, so that we can have hybrid events that don't cost us as much as putting on the physical event, and actually add to it and can bring in a new audience.
Definitely. You touched on digital marketing. Obviously that is that shift was already happening, but it's gone fully, and what are your thoughts on the most underutilized digital channel? So Emma, let's start with you, thinking about generating those leads and the sponsorship. So out of all the channels we have, which one would you say potentially is underutilized?
Yeah, we're trialing out new channels, not to give away all of our secrets, but we're looking at chatbots and how we can automate our marketing and sales processes. So it leaves our sales team more time to be account managers. I work in the tech division of Clarion, so we work with clients like Google and Zoom. They're so used to these experiences that are so automated that they don't necessarily need to have their hand held throughout everything. And likewise, our audience, our visitor audience, our IT managers, they're very tech savvy. And by nature, they don't necessarily want to call up or email. So if they can get what they need through our websites and through directional chatbots that will take them where they want to go, we're seeing some really great results from that. We are from both sides. We can personalize it again based on the personas. We can personalize it based on which channel they've entered the website from. And I think that's really key, is just personalizing the experience as much as we can. That again just comes down to having clean data that's tagged appropriately, finding out more and more about them as we can. The forms that we have, we ask a little question each time and we build upon it every time they fill out another form. We're trying to move away from as many forms, which I think is another point in itself. But yeah, that's the route that we're going down.
And then Rob, what are your thoughts on, from VisProm or XProm, or linking those delivery? What channels do you think we're underutilizing?
I agree with Emma and we've also started experimenting a bit with chat and some chatbots, but also chat functionality that we've actually implemented recently that is good. It generates a lot of leads, because I think it's adapting to what people use in their everyday life. And we know that we know that the advent of social media has meant that you want a response immediately. If people like to ask questions, people like to complain, and people don't like just to fill in forms and say, yes, form submitted, we'll get back to you in 48 hours. That's not the way society works anymore. And we know that. And for a younger audience, if you complain about the fact that your Deliveroo order has taken 40 minutes, then you want a response within 40 seconds. And that's the way society is working. So we have to adapt to those measures that are taking place. So we have to get in tune with how people are. We're not the only ones who've been affected by this pandemic. The world has changed. And if people are now more used to dealing with technology rather than reading a newspaper, that they're getting their news via their phones, then we have to adapt to that. And I promised yesterday I wouldn't, sort of taking my media 10 hat and putting my caboodle hat on. The reason that we went into this is that pre-pandemic, I wanted a solution, that I wanted content, and we spoke about this yesterday, about content creation is what we all want. We want content. And I was like, how do I get content without employing loads more staff? And it's like, well, let's look what Apple were doing, and let's look what MSN are doing. And it's, well, we don't have to be original content providers. We can be, but we wanted to use something that enabled this content throughout the year, which meant that we are thought leaders, that we can engage with our audiences 365, that we can be more than just an event. And that led us to thinking, wow, this application can be that. And like I said, I'm not using this platform as a sales pitch, but it just led it into the fact that I ended up being part of the team that acquired the business. We thought, wow, this can really change things, and it has done. It's changed things in terms of engagement. It's changed things in terms of revenue generation. It's just one of the things that we're thinking, how do we go from just emailing people and saying the event is in, thanks for visiting, see you next year. Those days are gone. Those days are long gone. And the pandemic has sped that up tenfold. So you just can't do that anymore. And it's a question of, right, is it the marketing department's responsibility to be the content writers? Yeah, well, how do we do that? Because we can't be, do we employ editors? Do we become, because ultimately the events will come back and then we charge for these other things. So it's using applications that enable our jobs to be easier. And if that is through chat functionality, if that is through Content Cow, if that's through Hootsuite, if that's through remarketing, if that's through the likes of Caboodle AI, then that's what we as marketeers have to do, is to identify these platforms, what works, what can take our business forward to the next level and can monetize it. And then suddenly the marketing department is at the hub of everything in the business, because we're saying, look, we can deliver this product and we can make money out of it. And we can increase our data and we can engage with our audience. And we've also got a live event that takes place once or twice a year. And now suddenly our portfolio is much broader. We're much busier. We're using technology to supplement our learnings rather than be burdensome. And as we keep saying, there are lots of applications around. It's about identifying them, using them, working with them, looking at the results, analysing them. And suddenly we've got, we're really optimistic for the next 12 months because we've done these things. We've looked at what we can change in the business and we're doing it. And over the last few months and the last 6 months, we've seen tremendous growth in the business because we've realised that it's not just about the live event, it's about everything that we have with our data and the other products that we can look at that supplement.
And Kate, obviously you mentioned TikTok earlier. Any other digital channels that, from your end, you think that there could be an opportunity that we're not utilising?
Well, I think probably the daddy of TikTok, which is YouTube, really. So I feel like we still haven't, and it's weird, as an events business, video should be our next natural medium, I would have thought. Getting your content on YouTube is just essential, and using it as a lead generation tool should be part of everybody's plan. I think YouTube is like the second most searched platform out there in the world. So I mean, we're missing an opportunity if we don't use that. And then obviously we have the audio side of things, so podcasts and Clubhouse. How the hell do we utilize these tools that are out there? And it's just getting ahead of it. I mean, we're all about the different senses, and yes, that face-to-face, absolutely, that's what we all believe in wholeheartedly. But there are other ways that we can deliver the similar experiences.
And kind of keeping on digital, we did have a question in, which was, if you could tell event organisers to focus on one thing to upgrade their digital strategy, what would it be? So Rob, over to you for this one.
Upgrade their digital strategy. I think that what they need to do is go back and analyse their market. How much data have they got? What markets are they in? What can they do? And don't just think of a digital strategy as being social media or virtual or hybrid events. As I said before, there are things within. If you're the number one event in your market, that means you're doing something really right, which means that you've got access to people that other industries couldn't get. So how can we monetize that? How can we be successful with it? And there is no one particular answer, because each show and each, I shouldn't call them shows anymore, but each brand is different. So what can I deliver for my brand that might only require 100 people to be involved with it, rather than thinking, oh, I get 8,000 people to my event, I need to get something that gets 8,000 people. You won't do it. You won't do it, online here. You might be able to do it in China with events, but over here you won't. So it's, where's my market? How can I monetize it? What platforms do I choose to do that? All the other stuff with your digital strategy would be, is my social media account robust enough? And one lesson I will say is that if you're a marketeer and you're passionate about your brand, then don't just post and don't just comment about the event or the portfolio. Be that person, be that brand that comments on things in every day, in your industry. Be controversial, make comments, make a name for yourself, because you can't just turn it on and off. Schedule your posts about the event coming up, schedule a post about your webinars and things like that, but really immerse yourself in your industry. And then that way you'll be regarded as thought leaders within your industry. Your brand will be. And therefore you'll be, when things happen, you'll be asked about that from journalists, and suddenly your event builds and your brand builds. So what we can't do is just doing the same as we did before. It requires people, and this is where the good will rise to the top, is people that are really passionate about their brands and the sectors they're in, and dive deeper into your sectors. Don't be scared to speak up about issues within your market. And that way, you'll be regarded as a thought leader rather than just as a facilitator of an event that takes place once a year.
And I know for a fact, Kate and Rob, you are currently recruiting right now, which is brilliant. And thinking about, what you are looking for, what qualities and, what right now would make a candidate stand out, and what do they need to have that maybe, 18 months ago wouldn't have even been on that job description. So, Kate, over to you firstly on this one.
Okay, so always innovative, people that have ideas and can be creative. That's so important. I have quite a long list, so sorry if I go on. People that have a good eye for design, and high expectations as well. So, I get frustrated that stuff goes out in the exhibition industry, the events industry, that is very formulaic, and very dull looking. Why does it have to be dull? We don't have to be dull. Why shouldn't we have the same standards as Nike and Coca-Cola? Our material should look good. That's what engages people. That's what attracts people to brands. And that can be creative with the copywriting. So again, it's not formulaic. We're not talking about everything being under one roof or a must-attend event. That can use language in innovative and kind of new and creative ways. And on that point, you have to be articulate. You have to have good English standards. Whether English is your first language or not, that's not the issue. It's kind of that you know how to communicate in a way that is conversational. Then finally, I think it's coming back to your digital skills as well. So understanding SEO, understanding how to set up a PPC campaign, understanding how to launch a LinkedIn Navigator campaign. It's all of these things, and these things are available for you to search up. There's a webinar for everything online, so just have a look. And I think having an interview with someone that's just done that level of research, I don't necessarily expect you to be an expert at exec level, but I would expect you to understand what was important and the elements and where you can develop as a marketing exec yourself, and just come with some ideas. you know, turn up with some ideas. This is how I would make things better.
Thanks. And Rob?
Yeah, I agree totally with Kate, and I would also say that, you know, challenge with ideas, and maybe those at more senior levels, we need that experience, because you still need, you know, ultimately this is AEO, you know, the event part of it is still important. We're talking about other stuff, but maybe at exec level or senior exec level, it might not necessarily they might not necessarily have to have event experience. What we want though is people that have, you know, chutzpah, people that actually come in and can challenge us and want to make a difference. And maybe we don't just look at the events field, we look at different markets, because whilst we're saying that events are only one part of what we do, then why are we just looking for event specialists? Shouldn't we be looking for digital specialists who can help our events? So I just don't want to see people who would say, yeah, I did this and then I did this, because those days are gone. Those days when it's like, yeah, I did the campaign and then did my research and then we planned for the next year and I sent out my first DM at this day. Yeah, great. That's the paint by numbers bit that I was talking about before. I want people to come with new, fresh ideas, like say, who've got a new tone of voice, who say, I think that you could do it this way, or I think you do it that way. And I think businesses will be smaller, certainly over the next year. Everyone's had to make efficiencies, most businesses have. Therefore, we need to find people who are good and who are going to challenge us. And it might be that we're looking for those people who are going to do career sprints and not just do the 10 years of slowly building up. Let's look for those people who are going to go from exec to manager really quickly, because they've got the nous to say, I'm not just going to accept that this is the way that things have to be done anymore.
Yeah,
that's what I would be. That's what I'm looking for.
And Emma, thinking about, you know, recruiting, especially in the, you know, the role that you do, and, you know, what would really kind of, what would you be looking for that you may not have been 18 months ago?
I think for us, our in-house staff are becoming so specialist within understanding the brand, with understanding the markets. And for us, we've obviously lost members of our team, and the ones who are here at the minute are so close to that. And we're looking at, you know, temps and agencies, and handling temps and agencies is a task in itself. You know, that is a skill to learn. It is project management, it's stakeholder management. I think that's a key aspect, to know how to delegate things at any level. If you're an exec, sometimes you're delegating things off, whether it's design work or PPC or any of these things. Like Kate said, I think it is a good idea to have an understanding of how these things work, so the wool's not pulled over your eyes by any of your suppliers. But internally is just get so close to the brand that you can come up with those fresh ideas. You can also look at non-traditional competitors, and that's really key. When you come to an interview and they say, what's your understanding of the business, you know, talk about non-traditional competitors, talk about publishers, talk about where your sponsors of your events are advertising elsewhere. Our competition has grown hugely, and with our products growing, that's just becoming more and more inevitable. So just, yeah, like a wide scope of where that brand sits in the ecosphere.
Thank you. And finally, you know, a question to all of you is, you know, the largest lasting change in, you know, in event marketing, you know, what would that be? Kate, let's start with you.
Yeah, I hate to use that buzzword again, but it is community, and the importance, kind of, again, going back to what Rob said, and I wholeheartedly believe this. You know, we are a community. It is about the data that we hold. Events is just a vehicle, one of the vehicles that we use along the way to connect with our audience. And 365 has, that buzzword has been around for a very, very long time. And you know, we've talked so many times about it in many of the companies that I've worked in, contracted with, but there's never been that investment behind it. And I think the reason why there's never been any investment behind it is because we haven't shown the commercial opportunity behind it. And hopefully over the last year, that has been proven that there is a commercial opportunity here. So it deserves the investment in both time and money and resource. So let's keep going with that. You know, let's not just be an event that happens once a year and say goodbye to our audience and see you next year. That's it. Hope you turn up, hope you remember us.
Yes, I 100% agree. And Emma?
I think for us, we've just taken so many risks. We have tried so many things, and some of them have gone well, some of them haven't gone as well, but we've learned from it, and we're just testing. And I mean, we've always tested in marketing, but now we're testing to the extreme. We're learning from every possible angle we can about our data. And I know we've shouted the word data over and over again, but that is, like Rob said, this is the business we're in. We're in the business of connections, and that mindset has completely changed. Like, I feel like I've changed in the past year with that. I'm no longer thinking about, I have to hit this number, I have to hit this. I'm trying to create valuable connections for people. Events have been around for hundreds of years, and we thrive off of human interaction and engagement, and that's just shifted. And it still exists in live events, but it also now exists digitally, and just being so aware of that. And like we've said time and time again, looking at how we use technology in our personal lives really needs to be mirrored by our industry too.
Thank you. And Rob?
Yeah, I don't have a bit more to add on what Kate and Emma have said. It's just that for those who are thinking about future careers or career progression, I don't think any longer we can just say that we're event marketeers, that our skill set has to develop. So if people are thinking about moving jobs or moving up within their own organization, and they're speaking to line managers, or they're speaking to directors about why they should move up, why they should join a new company, don't just come armed with talk of the exhibition. You've got to have more in your armory. You've got to say that this is now a brand, and one component is the event, and the rest of it are this, and this, and this is what I've been working on, because that's the value. And that's for me, the marketer of tomorrow is the person that has skill sets way above and beyond just opening the doors to an event and letting the people flood in and saying that's what I'm judged on, because that's now just one element of what we're judged on. We're now judged on so much more. And as Emma said, it's not now just about attendee numbers. Who knows what that's going to happen to events when they come back? Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? You know, the rules have changed now. We just don't know. But at the end of it, we're working on products throughout the year, and I think that's what marketers really have to sit down and think, am I doing that? Am I doing everything that I can possibly do?
Well, thank you all for your time today and for answering all the questions. I think there's a few questions around if the recording will be available, and it will be on the AEO website tomorrow. So yeah, thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day, and good luck with everyone's products and evolution that we're all going through.
Let's see what this year holds.
Meeting face to face in the coming months.
Can't wait.
Thank you, Jess.
Right.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Take care.
Bye.